Universal minds, how do you do? We've been going over the subject of intuition, which is one of my favorite subjects to study about, learn about, explore. And we've been mentioning that there's few different forms of intuition. There are forms such as visual intuition, emotional intuition, and there's knowing intuition. Here we are with knowing intuition, in which it's a strong sense or feeling of knowing. And in the words of Ralph Waldo Emerson, we can say its presence or its absence is all we can affirm. Here, we're going to look at a couple different methods in which we can quickly identify that feeling of knowing that accompanies any sort of information, and knowing this is yes, this is true, or knowing no, this is false. And I also want to mention that there are two different situations in which knowing intuition arises. The first is voluntary. The second is spontaneous or involuntary. Let's start with the voluntary. We're going to start this voluntarily, so we're going to initiate this by breathing slow, deep from the stomach, relaxing, and allowing the stillness to really soak us up, dim down those thoughts and all that noise. And we then bring our attention to first a true statement that we know, yes, this is true. We have confirmed this. And we're going to take note of, and observe the sensations and feelings that arise in correlation with the statement. Next, we're going to say a false statement that we can confirm this is false as false can be. And we're also going to take note of and observe the sensations and feelings which arise in correlation with the statement that is the feeling of no, I know this to be false. The reason we do this is so that we can become familiar quickly with that feeling of knowing when you know something, and when you know that something is not as it is being presented. So, for example, for a true statement, and for all statements, it can be something as general or as personal as we'd like, and we'll notice that it's always the same constant feeling of knowing that is thread throughout all the statements that are true and all the statements that are false. So, for example, a true statement for me might be, Angela is my mom. When I say that, I feel a definite knowing of, yes, this is true. And so that's just an example of a statement that is true. That's a personal statement, but it can also be very general. As far as false statements goes, I will just let you just conjure up all the false statements you want. Really, just imagine any false statement, and that will allow you to feel the feeling of knowing that this is a false statement. And then is the very super fun part and very useful, in which we present statements to ourselves that we have not yet confirmed the validity of the statement. We know not yet if it is true or false, so we present it in the form of a true statement. So it can be any statement. I can wake up one morning and say, I will make a video today. And if all is in perfect timing and all is harmonized with that statement, then I will receive a feeling of knowing, yes, this is true, I will. If maybe it is not the right time for whatever reason, then I will feel a feeling of, no, this is not true. So it can be simple things like that, or maybe something a little bit more complex. That is voluntary. And intuition in the form of knowing. Next is spontaneous or involuntary. And so we do not initiate this, although the only way in which we initiate it is to be open and to invite this and invite this form of information into our lives. And once we do, then it does come. And this is where we're going throughout our day at any point, and we all of a sudden have the just sudden feeling of knowing something. It can be all of a sudden we know something about the answer to a question or a decision, or we know something about future events, or we know something about the present, but it's something that we hadn't looked at in that way or hadn't understood, or however, whatever, it will be information that is perfect for you to receive at that moment. And we will also notice that spontaneous, involuntary, knowing intuition is absolutely astonishingly reliable. Why do I say that? It's not that voluntary is not reliable, because it very much is. However, the entire element of us not initiating it in the first place means that whatever information we're receiving has virtually no interference whatsoever from the mind, which can sometimes act as a censor or a filter for intuitive experience and information. And I say that because our thoughts, if we're paying attention to our thoughts, in contrast to becoming comfortable with allowing the conscious thinking mind to sidestep and allow direct passageway and communication and interaction with the source of infinite intelligence and information, then we will want to become just comfortable with allowing that to happen, allowing the conscious mind to not interfere. And so that's why the spontaneous source of knowing information is highly reliable, and if not always reliable. And I say this also because it is always coming at perfect timing. Again, not that voluntary information does not come to us at the perfect time. However, we may sometimes be voluntarily asking questions which we may not be exactly prepared or ready to receive the answers to. Not all the time, but just in general, it's something to keep in mind. And so let's play with this. I invite you to play with this. I will too. And maybe I'll just leave you with a couple statements that are completely antagonist to each other. And in this way, you can kind of get a feel for just how far we can really have use for this and its infinite application. So, couple different statements. Dreams have no important meaning. Okay. Dreams are out-of-body experiences. The human race is the only conscious, sentient, thinking race in the universe. The human race is being aided by extraterrestrial civilizations in their evolution. So there we have a few different statements, all kind of opposed to each other in different ways. And I'll just leave you with those, and we'll be surprised at what we know that we did not know that we knew when we say certain things, and then we observe what happens within. And so, yes, let's play, and I wish you a knowing, good knowing.